Welcome to the Start With Who podcast, where we explore how understanding who you are shapes the way you lead, work, and live. I'm Joe Shannon with Newton Institute, and I'll be joined by Rick Newton as we bring reflective conversations, real-world stories, and practical insights to help you start with who in every area of life. Our goal is to help you discover your unique design and elevate your life, leadership, and legacy. It's great to have you with us. Let's get started with today's episode. Hey, Rick. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too, Joe.
So in the last episode, we did a really deep dive on Start With Who at the individual level, how you help people answer the who am I question and uncover their DNA markers. And if you're listening to this episode, I would highly recommend going back and listen to that episode just to set the context, some of the things we'll be talking about today. But in this episode, I want to zoom out a bit and talk about the bigger framework that these DNA markers live inside of. Can you just share a little bit about what the Newton Compass is and why it matters?
Yeah, that's a good next step, Joe, because the Newton Compass is one of the flagship tools that we've developed at the Newton Institute. And honestly, it's one of the tools that I wish I had on my entrepreneurial journey. At each point of the compass, there's a foundational question that we believe every person must answer in order to be successful. So the northern point asks the who am I question. That's the question we covered in the last episode, and this is your design or your DNA. The eastern point asks, why am I here? This is your personal purpose. The southern point asks, how should I be living? These are your values. And the western point asks, where am I headed? Which is your vision of your future life. And these four questions have been asked by philosophers and theologians for thousands of years. We didn't invent them. But what we did is we embedded them into a simple and visual framework, which is a perfect metaphor for how answering those questions provides a guide for your life. A compass keeps you oriented. And if you ever find yourself drifting, it helps you get back on the right path.
Yeah. I remember when we were first having these conversations to really understand how the different pieces of the puzzle fit together. How long ago was that? Do you remember that moment?
Yeah, I'll never forget being at that whiteboard almost 10 years ago. We were working on a script and a video to articulate the power of answering these questions, and something just felt off about the visual we were using at the time. At first, we had concentric circles with the who in the middle, and then the why, the how, and the where were rippling outward from that center who question. And the problem was those circles made it look like that inner who circle only informed the circle right next to it, the why circle. It wasn't showing that your who question informs the other three questions equally. And I remember going up to the whiteboard and erasing those concentric circles, and we drew a compass instead. And right when we did that, you and I just paused, and we both knew that we had landed on something important. And then, as you normally do, you took that concept, you made it visually appealing, and helped refine it into the compass that we have today.
Yeah, it's been quite the journey and lots of whiteboard sessions, but let's walk through the framework at the individual level first, what we call the personal compass. Can you take us around the 4 points?
Sure. And as a reminder, we always start at the northern point because answering the who question informs everything else, like we just said. So the northern point is your DNA, and here we answer the question that few of us ever really wrestle with, and that's the who am I question. As we talked about last time, every person is a one-of-a-kind masterpiece, and the who question is where we give language to your unique design through your DNA markers. Your DNA markers become your true north, and they describe how you show up and the value you bring in every situation, whether that be at work, home, school, or in the community. And as we described in the last episode, we gather lots of clues to your design from your life history, feedback from others, and assessments. And this exercise creates a robust vocabulary from which we draw to answer the other three questions around the compass. Pointing east is your why. Here we answer the why am I here question. Answering the why question reveals the unique impact you alone are meant to make in the world, the problem that you're uniquely designed to solve. And your purpose points east where the sun rises. And just like the sun at the beginning of each new day, your purpose brings light and life and energy for you to contribute something meaningful to the world around you. Pointing south is the question, how should I be living? These are your personal values. They define how you treat people, where you invest your time and money, what you say yes or no to when everything's on the line. Your values point south because, as we like to say, they're what you stand on and what you stand for. And it's important to note that your values are not meant to be disconnected ideals or generic words pulled from a list. They're an outward expression of your design. Your values flow directly from your DNA and reflect what matters most because of who you are. For instance, an entrepreneur's values may center around bold risk taking, serving others, and creative flexibility, while an engineer's values might focus on analytical problem solving, attention to detail, and creating practical and measurable outcomes. And finally, pointing west is the question, where am I headed? This is your personal vision. It's a vivid picture of what your future looks like, your family, work, relationships, and legacy when your life lines up with the rest of your compass. And your vision points west where the sun sets. And at the end of every day, you'll want to know that you've moved one step closer to that future vision. And if purpose is the reason you move forward, vision is what that purpose looks like in practice. It translates your purpose into a future with tangible outcomes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really helpful. So if I'm an individual listening to this, whether I'm someone who's just starting out at the beginning of my journey or I've been leading for decades, I'm probably thinking, okay, that sounds nice. Sounds like a good idea to have clarity on those questions. But what would actually change in my life if I took the time to define my personal compass? What would you say to that?
Yeah, a great question. We like to say that a well-defined personal compass shows up in practical ways. So, for instance, it has the power to inform the critical decisions that you make every day, everything from career moves to how you spend a Saturday. It helps you balance the many demands competing for your time. It strengthens personal and professional relationships by giving language to how each of us is designed, how we differ, and how we complement one another. It clarifies your vocation, illuminates your career path. It informs how you spend and steward your money, and it improves your leadership as you operate more authentically out of your unique design. So, in short, the compass takes you from drifting to flourishing. It moves you from being a human doing, chasing accomplishments, to being a human being, living and leading from authentic identity.
Yeah. I love that transition, that sort of transformation from one to the other. And I know we could talk a lot more about that. We've talked about how important these questions are and how they apply to individual leaders. Let's shift in the next part of this to organizations. One of the things you and the team have always emphasized is that it's the same framework applies at the personal and the organizational level. Can you show us a little bit how that works?
Yeah, honestly, this is one of the most powerful things about the compass. Those same four questions work at the individual, the team, and the organizational level. And what changes at the organizational level is the pronouns. Instead of I and me, the questions become we and us. So, for instance, the northern point of the compass becomes who are we? What is our organization's unique design and identity? East becomes why are we here? What problem are we uniquely designed to solve together? How will we make the world a better place? South becomes how will we operate? What are the values and guiding principles that define our organization's behavior, decisions, and priorities? And West becomes where are we going? What is our shared vision for the future, described in clear, practical, and relatable ways?
Yeah, I think it's a really helpful distinction to go from not just what value does your organization provide, but where are you headed? What does success look like? What does impact look like? But I suppose, what about the people who lead organizations who would say, well, we've already got all that. We already have a mission, we have a vision, we have our values. What's different? What's the emphasis around the organizational compass?
Yeah, Joe, that's another important question. And you're right. Most organizations already have a mission, vision, and values, even if they use slightly different words than how we're describing it. But here's the issue. Most organizations skip the who question entirely. They jump straight to mission, vision, and values as if they could exist apart from identity. And I did this for years as a consultant. I helped clients define mission, vision, and values without ever asking what is the organization's unique DNA. And what I found is that DNA is the missing piece. Every organization has a unique design. If you don't name it, your current mission, vision, and values may not be aligned with who you are.
Why is that a problem?
Well, not starting with who may result in your organization having an identity crisis. You drift away from who you are and what made you successful in the first place. In fact, I found that an organization that obsesses over what its competitors are doing is often having an identity crisis. They don't know who they are, so they focus on what everyone else is doing versus having the confidence and conviction to stay in their swim lane. And when you anchor your mission, vision, and values in your DNA, every part of your compass gets sharper. Your mission isn't generic, it's yours. Your values aren't decorative, they flow from who you are. And your vision isn't borrowed, it's the future only your organization can aspire to. And in a world where organizations have access to all the knowledge and expertise in the world through AI, your DNA aligned mission, vision, and values are what differentiates you from everybody else.
Yeah, that's really good. So once an organization gets that compass in place, what things does it actually do for the business?
Yeah, so similar to the personal compass, the organizational compass is the foundation for everything that your company does. So, for instance, a well defined organizational compass provides critical inputs into your business strategy. You and I have done that quite a bit for some organizations. We define their compass, and the very first step that we take is then, okay, if that's your vision, how do we make what's the strategy? What's the plan to bring that into present reality? It guides what products and services you provide to the marketplace. It can align your leadership team, making sure everyone is moving in the same direction. It elevates your branding and marketing, making sure it reflects who you really are. It strengthens customer relationships because you attract the right customers who are drawn to who you are. And it serves as the foundation for your organization's culture, which I'd argue is one of the most important things leaders ever do. As we say in the book, if you're aiming for the moon and you're off by 1 degree, you'll miss it by over 4,000 miles. And your compass is what keeps your organization focused on the target, on its future vision.
Yeah. Yeah. So having worked with you for years now, one term I've heard you use a lot when describing the goal of the compass is convergence. You just want to explain what you mean by that and where it applies and
Yeah. So, convergence. So let's shift from organization to individuals. Convergence is what we're ultimately after when we are working with individual leaders. Convergence is when there's these 3 Ps. Convergence is when your preparation, your passion, and your purpose all come together. It's when you become who you were born to be and do what you were born to do. And most leaders, even highly effective ones, never reach convergence. And the reason they never enter this fulfilling season of life where they're making a meaningful difference in the world is that they are unable to overcome what some have labeled the doing being gap. They stay stuck in doing mode rather than operating out of their authentic design. They're successful by every external measure, but underneath they're frustrated, disillusioned, and burned out. And I know this because I was one of those leaders for over 20 years. I successfully led projects and organizations, but I wasn't operating fully out of my natural design. I believed the lie that I had to be all things to all people, and that if you want a job done right, you have to do it yourself. And so this led to a lot of long hours, a lot of stress, culminating in open heart surgery. And that's not convergence. And I found that there's a better way to lead. And when you take the time to define and align around your compass, convergence becomes possible because you learn to just be yourself, to just be you. And when this preparation, purpose, and passion all come together, when that takes root, you start seeing what we call the 3 Cs starting to emerge: confidence, conviction, and contentment. So confidence grows. You're grounded in your identity, not your achievements. You stop needing the next win to feel worthy. Conviction increases, especially under pressure. You can say no to things outside your design without flinching because you know who you are. And contentment soars because you become comfortable in your own skin. You stop trying to be someone else to please all of those around you. So aligning with your compass is how we get to convergence.
That's really helpful. Yeah, I know I've observed the difference in people who have done this work, this idea of having clarity in these 4 areas, the who, the why, how, and where. It sounds, but I've also seen people experience it's just freeing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's actually the exact word I would use, freeing. Most leaders are carrying around a tremendous amount of weight that comes from not having answered these questions. And so, out of people pleasing and not knowing who they are, they try to become all things to all people. And the compass and answering these questions clearly gives you permission to stop doing that, to take an honest look and to start building or rebuilding your life and your leadership on a foundation that's actually yours.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's something that's rarely done, whether you have awareness of it or not. It gives you permission to just stop, take that honest look, and to, like you said, build your life and your leadership on a more solid foundation. So before we wrap up, one last question. You said the compass applies to individuals, teams, organizations. Where are we going next as we look at the next episode?
Yeah, great segue, Joe. In the next episode, we're going to spend some time on one of the biggest barriers people hit when they start doing the work around the personal compass, especially at the who am I, the northern point of the compass. And that barrier we call head trash. And so we define head trash as the lies and limiting beliefs we've quietly accepted about ourselves over the years. And they're some of the biggest obstacles each of us have, keeping us from becoming who we're designed to be. And you're not going to want to miss that next episode.
Yeah, going a little bit deeper, a little bit more beneath the surface. I really look forward to that. And I'm sure those listening will benefit from all of the topic on head trash. If you have any questions about this episode, we'd love to hear from you. Rick, as always, how can people get in touch with you directly?
Yeah, again, follow me on X, Rick Newton 777, or LinkedIn. I try to post in both places regularly. You can visit our website, newtoninstitute.com, to learn more about the Newton Compass, both the personal and the organizational compass. We have videos on the homepage that will walk you through exactly what we did here. And then also, as we said in the last episode, the first few chapters of the book are available at newtoninstitute.com / start with who book. And those chapters will fill in a lot of the details we don't have time to cover on this podcast.
Yeah. Thanks, Rick. Looking forward to the next episode on head trash, and we'll see you then.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks for joining us today on the Start With Who podcast. If today's episode sparked a question, please drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Please take a moment to rate the show, follow us, and subscribe so you're notified when new episodes are released. And if you'd like to learn more, visit newtoninstitute.com to sign up for our newsletter and explore what's possible when you start with who. Thanks again for being part of this journey. We'll see you in the next episode.